Welcome to the first ever edition of the TheReviewSpace Beatbox Sessions. This is being recorded on May 31st, 2017. This is the TheReviewSpace, and everything I am about to record and everything you're about to hear is directly from my mouth and my mouth only. This is vocal percussions, aka beatboxing. Let's begin. Oh, let's try some drum and bass now. I try to do the tiny tempo. I think that's called tiny tempo, right? I forgot what the song was called, but I know Faith SFX used to do that a lot, and he does it way better than I do. But that's a great song too. I don't even remember the song. Let it rain, da, 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 da. We won't come back until we hit the ground and pass out, pass out. But anyway, there's a lot of different covers and different routines, I guess, that I would end up borrowing and just downright imitating, trying to imitate and try to steal from other famous beatboxers that I love listening to over the years. And there's been a lot of I have a lot of inspirations over the years, ever since I started beatboxing from the early 2000s. See, in the 90s, beatboxing was around. It's been an art form that's been around since the 80s, and it's been a really it's a staple of hip-hop, vocal percussions, beatboxing. The Fat Boys and Kenny Muhammad, and there's been so many legendary beatboxers, but one of the most famous ones by far would be Rahzel. Rahzel is probably the most single influential beatboxer in the history of beatboxing, because his routine and his style, particularly the "If Your Mother Only Knew" routine, and I don't even remember exactly when he made that, maybe sometime in the mid-late 90s, but when the internet started to get when you were able to download music, I should say, off the internet by the late 90s with Kazaa and LimeWire and what's the other one, Napster. It began with Napster, and then by the early 2000s you had LimeWire and then Kazaa and all that stuff. Then you could download Razel's "If Your Mother Only Knew." That was one of the famous beatboxing routines back then. And he had that live version where when he did "If Your Mother Only Knew" in front of the audience, or whatever audience he was doing, it was like a concert. And it was so epic and it was so incredible. He tore the house down, and for many, many years after that, just about every beatboxer around the world was influenced and inspired by that particular routine. So the way that Razel did it, and I mean, I don't have an amazing version or a cover of that routine, but I mean, I'll try to do it the best way I can. But he would begin, and it went something like, he would do the singing part of it. That, "If your mother only knew," and then he would kind of tease the crowd a little bit. He would be just, "If your mother only knew," and then he would do like a heartbeat kind of beat. "If your mother only knew, she'd probably leave you alone. She'd probably get the number and call you on your phone." I don't even know the lyrics, so don't crucify me on that, because I don't I don't memorize the rest of the lyrics. However it went, But yeah, he would have that "If your mother only knew" at the beginning, and then finally he would kind of tease the crowd a little bit, and then he would get into the beat. But before he got to the beat, he would actually hype up the crowd even more, and he would milk the heck out of that routine, and he would be like, "And now the beat and the chorus at the same time," and the whole crowd would go nuts. They would be like, "Oh snap!" They would be really anxious. They'd be like, "If your mother only knew, if your mother only knew, if your mother only knew, if your mother only knew," and the whole crowd would go nuts. I mean, his bass line, his drums and kicks were a lot more on point than I could do it. Mine is just just some imitation, but the way he did it, "If your mother only knew, if your mother only knew," and it was so epic and it was so awesome. Just one of the legendary performances in hip-hop, and still to this day I think that's the most influential beatbox routine ever, because I mean, after that everybody imitated that. I'm sure everybody downloaded that off the internet in the early 2000s, and guys like Faith SFX and even probably like Killa Kella and Eclipse and all these other famous beatboxers over the years in the early mid-2000s that would end up establishing their own name, especially like in Europe, when beatboxing became really famous in Europe. Guys like Killa Kella. Killa Kella was another big name from the late 90s, early 2000s, and he kind of spread beatboxing even more. He was this awesome beatboxer, and he was more of a drum and bass style. Every beatboxer has their foundation. So guys like Razel and the Fat Boys and Kenny Muhammad, they were a lot more like funky style, hip-hop style, breakbeat style kind of thing. and then somebody like Killa Kela from Europe. I think he's from England, the United Kingdom. His style was more, it was more drum and bass, which was the popular electronic type of music in the 90s. So that really fast pace. That really fast pace, very fast BPMs, very fast pace, a lot of BPMs per minute. I don't even know how many in a single drum and bass song. Probably around 120, maybe more than that, 150 beats per minute. But it's it was hypnotic. And he was great, Killa Kela, he was great at that routine, that very intricate. But he also had the typical hip-hop covers, very good covers. He had a great routine with, he did a great, like Britney Spears. He did I'm a Slave for You back in the day. I can't even do it, but I'm a slave for you. He was so great. Loved it. He did the Gwen Stefani. I remember him doing Gwen Stefani's routine. What was that? Lose Your Mind or Blow Your Mind? Yeah. And here we go. That Blow Your Mind beat. What was it? That was Gwen Stefani and Eve. Yeah. Eve and Gwen Stefani from the early 2000s, I guess. That was a big song. And he was able to do that. He had great covers, good hip-hop stuff. He had a good hip-hop foundation. Because, he did like music for Battle of the Year. I think he was in the Battle of the Year soundtrack. Might have been 2000. Battle of the Year is basically a breakdancing, b-boying competition that has its roots, I think, in Germany from the early 90s. For a while, b-boying or breakdancing, it was a big thing in the United States because it came from the hip-hop community, the black community, and the Puerto Rican communities of the 1970s, early 80s in the East Coast, New York, the Bronx, American art form, American dance. But by the early 90s, the breakdancing stuff had kind of become, I would say, passe. It just wasn't as popular as it used to be because it went from being this really popular fad trend in the mainstream, in the mid 80s, and then by the late 80s, early 90s, breaking, b-boying, breakdancing, whatever you want to call it, had become kind of underground in the United States. It just went underground. It just wasn't as popular as it used to be. And a lot of kids, a lot of young people stopped breakdancing. Aside from the hardcore, younger generation and the people that were still doing it. I'm sure a lot of the b-boy crews, some of the b-boy crews were still around, like RSC, Rocksteady Crew, and those kind of guys. They still held on to it. But in the United States, it wasn't as popular anymore. But overseas, in places like Germany, hip-hop was taken over. American hip-hop was like it was starting to blossom, and it was still catching on, and b-boying was still celebrated. So the breakdancing competition, like a Battle of the Year in the early 90s, had the b-boying stuff, and that was a b-boy competition, a breakdance competition, and they held it every year, annually, since the early 90s. It was basically like the best break dancers around the world, the best breakers around the globe, many different countries represented in the 90s and throughout the 2000s. So they kept doing it. I'm not even sure if they still have Battle of the Year in the modern generation, in 2017, in the past 5 years or whatever, but Bodie was tremendous. Battle of the Year was one. That became a breakdancing mecca, a b-boy mecca, some kind of b-boy destination. If you're a die-hard, hardcore, super talented b-boy, I mean, you probably would love to have an opportunity to be there. You know, that was a big deal when I was in high school. Was a chance to actually see or go to a battle of the year. You know, I just never got an opportunity because, I mean, realistically, they're always held somewhere in Europe. You know, like in Germany, Korea. You know, those kind of places. Korea was also a badass country that had a lot of great b-boys. France was another one. France and Korea. France and South Korea were both probably two of the strongest competitive countries when it comes to b-boying in the 2000s. Like in the 90s, I would say it was Germany, a little bit of America. America had their piece of the pie too. They had a little bit of a presence there. So it's like Germany, a little bit of America, mid-late 90s, and then by the early 2000s, it was like France, Korea. Like France would win one year, and the next year it would be Korea, and then the next year it would be France, and then the next year again, you know, so they would like trade back and forth wins. And I mean, now I don't even know what's the best country now. I have no idea. You know, I mean, I don't know which country is the best b-boy country in the world right now. So I was supposed to be beatboxing, but now let's get back to the beatboxing aspect of it. It's cool to get into the history of hip hop and, you know, b-boying as well, and beatboxing, because it all ties in. So speaking about Battle of the Year, by the late 90s, we get into I say late 90s, we have Killa Kela doing the soundtrack for Battle of the Year. So like by, you know, Battle of the Year 2000, there you have Killa Kela coming full circle, the beatboxer, and then he does like a cut or an actual song on the Battle of the Year soundtrack. And that was one of the earliest projects that he did where he got his name out there. I mean, I think he was part of the Scratch Perverts back in the day, probably in the 90s or something like that, but he was on that Battle of the Year soundtrack, and that made his name even more recognizable, the Killa Kela brand. So by the early 2000s, Killa Kela started to really establish himself as a famous beatboxer in the UK, in Europe. And so his routines were tremendous. He was incredible. He had so many great routines, like just hip-hop beats and rap beats. I remember this one thing that he did. I don't even remember the actual song, but he would do a cover of this like really epic kind of war chant, kind of battle kind of beat. It would be like he would start it off with a chant. It's like day 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 die 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 date 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 I date 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 I date 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 I day 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 babe babe day babe I 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 babe babe date debate I babe date date debate I babe babe day babe I babe babe day babe I power 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 babe day babe I day. And I guess the main lyrics of that simple beat was day by day. It actually went, that was the chant, was day by day. I forget the actual the real song itself, because I'm sure that was a cover of an you know, a real, you know, MP3 or real music. But yeah, it would be day by day. That was the chant, day 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 by day, and then the snare would come in, it would kick in, and he would just build it up. It was so epic. Day by day, date 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 I date 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 date. And then his hype man, he had a hype man with him back in those days, because I forget the guy's name, but I mean, he had this guy with him. His hype man would like hype up the beats, and he would rile up the crowd, and he was a great hype man. You know, he'd be like, come on everybody, chant along, and you know, everybody sing along, and everybody chant, you know. Ah man, those were the frickin' days. That was Killa Kela in his prime, like in the early mid 2000s. 2001, 2002, 2003. You know, even I think like 2004, he was popping and doing his thing. Even here in BC, I remember Killa Kela. He did a show in BC, like in the Vancouver area. This might have been, I want to say 2006, either 2005 or 2006, and I really wanted to go. You know what I mean? But there might have been an age limit kind of thing, so maybe I was too young at that time. I mean, I think I was like 18 or 19, so I don't even, you know, maybe I was of age, but, you know, one of those shows that I really wanted to go to, I ended up missing it because, I mean, Killa Kela, he was in high demand in that time, by the mid-2000s, you know, like 2005, 05, by 05, 06, he was already like super famous as far as beatboxing was concerned, so he was doing shows around the world. So, you know what I'm saying, Killa Kela would go to Vancouver, he'd do a show in Van City, you know, here in BC, British Columbia, Canada, and I wanted to go, and unfortunately I just never got a chance to see it. I think there's some footage here on YouTube from like 2006 or 2005. It's like really grainy footage too, because, you know, they had really crappy cameras back in the mid-2000s, so they didn't have HD footage back then. But, you know, it's cool to see him actually perform back in the day, you know. I mean, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's still beatboxing. I'm sure he is, you know, a lot of these beatboxing guys, it's hard. It's hard being a beatboxer, I think, as far as an actual career, because staying relevant is very difficult, especially if you're a beatboxer that's been around for many, many years. It's like the years would just go by, music would change, first of all, you know, the actual style of music. So you go from the 1970s, the 1980s, which was very different, and then the 90s comes in, very different from the 80s. The 2000s is even more different, although in the 2000s, beatboxing had become super mainstream. It became to the point where people knew what beatboxing was. It was a guy making beats and music type stuff with their mouth, vocal percussion, right? And there was a lot of little competitions and battles here and there. You saw people like Joel Turner from Australia, you know, emerge in the mid 2000s. You saw people, a lot of beatboxers that would kind of show up in these, what do you even call them, like televised competition, you know, like X Factor type of TV show competition, you know, like a talent show, a talent competition on TV. And so some people would appear on TV, and it was kind of inspiring because it's like, wow, beatboxing has really become super popular. And another one of my inspiration was Eclipse. Eclipse was incredible because, I mean, this guy was from France, probably France's best beatboxer of all time, just because he accomplished so much. He performed in front of live crowds, and he was really great at that. He was kind of like the Faith SFX of France, or Faith SFX was the Eclipse of England, you know, however it works. But yeah, Eclipse was great. Eclipse was your traditional hip-hop beatboxer, you know, so he wasn't doing like, he didn't do like drum and bass, he didn't do electronica, he didn't do like dubstep, dub kind of music. He wasn't doing that stuff. He did like traditional hip-hop beats. You know, he would do, he was just amazing. He'd do the typical, you know, like the 50 Cent back in the day. I mean, I know he used to do, I shouldn't say he never did electronica. I know he did Daft Punk. he does a Daft Punk beat, and he does a few like techno beats here and there. So it's not, I shouldn't have said that he doesn't do electronica, but for the most part, he's a hip-hop guy. You know what I mean? He's the kind of guy that was predominantly set in doing rap beats and hip-hop beats, whether it's Busta Rhymes or 50 Cent, you know, those kind of guys. Yeah, 50 was another famous rapper from the early 2000s. 50 was huge back in the day. So as far as like beatboxing, I mean, geez. He had In the Club. In the Club was a really famous hit. That's probably the biggest hit that he's ever had, and that was like his not his first single, but I mean that was his big single from Get Rich or Die Trying, which was one of the biggest hip-hop albums of all time, and probably the biggest hip-hop record of the 2000s, aside from, I'm sure there was an Eminem record in the 2000s that was just as big or bigger than Get Rich or Die Trying. But yeah, he had that song In the Club. Well, no, at the beginning it was just a beat, the drums and the kick, and it was just that so it would begin like that, and then the beat would kick in with the bass line and the hook. It would have that catchy that Go shorty, it's your birthday, we gon' party. I don't even know if I can do that properly. Yeah, so as far as beatboxing is concerned, my style would be more 2000s. Yeah, I'm not like a dubsteppy kind of beatboxer. I know there's that famous footage on the internet, and there's many different like YouTubers, beatbox YouTubers now, or YouTube beatboxers now. That famous family, for example, that father and daughter combination. You got the father and the daughter would do more like a dubsteppy kind of trap steppy kind of style. She would do the little sound effects. She's really good. Her style, I think, is a lot more current, a lot more modern, a lot more advanced than what I can do. My style is kind of stuck in the early 2000s, you know what I mean? 90s, early 2000s kind of a beatboxing style, which is just basic beats, more simplistic, a little bit more simple compared to the more current, I don't know, like dubstep. You got the dubstep stuff now. Not that I haven't attempted dubstep. I'm sure some of you guys remember my I think I tried to do the Skrillex. What the hell was that Skrillex song? Cinema. I forgot about that damn Cinema, which is a really cool song. I love the Skrillex Cinema joint, but I mean, I don't remember like every detail of that song. Like if I tried to redo it now, let me think. How does it go again? Yeah. So it went like this. The beginning would be like this melodic thing at the beginning, just. Yeah. I could watch, and then the lyrics comes in. I could watch you for a lifetime. You're my favorite movie. And then it would just continue. That you are a cinema, a Hollywood treasure. Action, thriller. I could watch you forever. You are a cinema, a Hollywood treasure. Action, thriller. I could watch you forever. And then I would switch into the build up to it, which is just the drums and the snare and the kick, and it was just your traditional like a breakbeat kind of thing. Put up the face, put up that face, pop that fly, put up that face, put up that face, put up that face, put up that fly, put up that face, put up that face, put up that fly, put up that face, put up that face, drop the bass, round, round, oh man, I haven't done that in a while. I'm trying to remember the actual that I can't even do it. I feel like I lose my breath, like I'm running out of breath. My face turns red, and I feel like I'm gonna die when I do that because I lose so much air from my lungs. Oh my god. I can't do the dubstep. It's so difficult, man. It's so effing hard to do dubstep. It's like intricate. It's a little bit different. I do like the Flux Pavilion stuff, which I consider yeah, well, more like early 2010s dubstep. I guess you could call it more simplistic dubstep. You know what I mean? The Flux Pavilion, like let the bass cannon kick you, or the bass cannon joint, and you know, that kind of stuff. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't even do that one. But with what's the other one? The other Flux Pavilion joint. Now I'm forgetting. Bass cannon. Sorry, yeah, with bass cannon. I mean, bass cannon is kind of simple too. That's a very simple, like 2011, 2010 kind of beat. You know, whatever year it came out. It's not like a dubstep song today, like in 2017, or even from a couple of years ago. You know, 2014, 2015. Yeah, bass cannon was just a very simplistic, like. The bass cannon kick it, but the bass cannon kick it. I can't even. I can't really replicate that one either. But I do. I love that distorted. I don't even know, that distortion effect. And then you got the wub, and the wub is that that whoa 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 whoa. That's tough. It's tough to do the wubs. I'm sure there's somebody on YouTube that can do it far better. You know, somebody that can actually, because that stuff is just difficult. You know, that needs a lot of practice, and I don't listen to a lot of dubstep. With trap step though, trap is a little bit different, because like trap EDM is more. I mean, it's very dubsteppy too in its composition and its arrangement, but with trap step has a very hip hop roots. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of influence from hip hop trap music. You know, the typical trap music. So with trap EDM, a lot of the little sound bites and the sound effects and its approach and the kicks and the drums and the bass line is a lot more. It's a lot more hip hop style as compared to the more electronic, distorted version of the dubstep stuff. Like with dubstep, it's really grimy sounding and very metallic. It has a very metallic sound, like gears grinding. You know what I mean? Like a train tracks. Yeah, somebody I think mentioned it's like Transformers having sex. It really does. That's dubstep. But with trap music, it's just your very hip hop oriented, but with kind of an electronic EDM type of beat to it. You know, more faster paced. And I'm trying to remember. There's a few here and there that. I'm trying to remember the actual titles. I can't remember every single trap step musician, you know what I mean? I do remember this one where it's like there's a great build up and it's like I can't even. Oh man, something like that. You know, I think the only thing that I can't really duplicate is maybe the actual beat, like the actual kicks, because the kick is kind of complicated too. It's got a bit of the way that it's got a different beat. Like the way the kicks is very trap heavy, so it's got that double kick. It's got a little bit of that. I don't even know what you call it, but it's not as simplistic as a hip hop beat. It's not as simple as a hip hop beat, but it's not as difficult to imitate compared to dubstep for sure. I think dubstep is just a little bit more difficult. Like with trap, I mean, I get that. Yep. You know, it's got the little sound effects, that little. I don't even know where that comes from. That's one of those hip hopisms that trap EDM has picked up. That you know, somebody will make that weird sound effect, that guttural, or you know what I mean, in the background. Because I mean, I think that came from, again, the trap hip hop, trap music, which is basically rap music, but has a different style to it. You know what I mean? It's more the production is a little bit different. You know, it's a little bit more crunkish, southernish. You know, a little bit more. You know, the lyrical content is talking about selling drugs at a trap house. You know what I mean? So it's got like drug-related, crime-related origins in terms of its frickin' content. That's why they call it trap. You know what I mean? Trap rap music. And then that became trap EDM because again, the electronic producers would copy the little trap isms of the hip hop stuff, that and talking about, like, you know, they'll have a gun click, for example, or I should say like a trigger click, like, you know, that when you're about to shoot somebody, like when you shoot a gun, that click clack sound. They would have that. They would have a guy with a guttural, like, you know, they would have these little, I'm trying to imitate it. I'm trying to copy some, like, let me go to like some RL Grime type stuff, because I really like RL Grime as far as like trap step, you know what I mean, trap EDM. I think RL Grime is incredible. They're probably my favorite out of all of them, but I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, it's like. Can't do the shit that I do. God damn. It's not good to beatbox when you're sitting down too. Because like your stomach gets compressed and it's just I can't do that for more than like 30 seconds. It takes out so much air it takes away so much oxygen from the brain that I just lose breath right away. I lose my breath so quickly. I'm trying to think of some other beats. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different like hip hop beats over the years. So many different like routines that you can do, but I mean, traditional stuff, the 90s stuff is really easy to do for the most part. The 2000s is more influential as far as like imitating something. And I remember one of the more famous ones was Snoop Dogg. The Snoop Dogg, what was that Snoop Dogg one called? Drop It Like It's Hot. The Drop It Like It's Hot from back in the day, probably like 2003, 2004, something like that. Yeah, when the pigs come and get at you, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, you know. And for a while, it was kind of hard for me to do. You know, there's so many different beatboxers that were able to do that. Like Lee J. Abukayan was able to do that. He was probably one of the earliest guys that can do it. I'm sure like Eclipse can do it, Faith SFX can do it, but it just took me many years to finally get that one, to finally, like, it would click in my head to where I can finally do the drop it like it's hot. Like at the beginning, I just did a very basic beat. It was a basic hip hop beat. I was just doing it wrong. So at the beginning, like when that song first came out, I was just like, you know, you know what I mean? So it was just very basic. It wasn't accurate at all. But maybe around like 2007, so like many years after that song already came out, I was just one day I was just sitting in the car and I just did it, and it just clicked in my head. It was like, oh, that's the freaking pattern, that's the drum pattern, and you got to kick it this way, and the hi-hat and the way the clicks and everything rolled in together. So it was like, you know, and then you gotta hit him with the intro and that. And that's what took me so long to get, was the drums, mixing it in with a stupid click that was very difficult, because again, when that song first came out, it was hard for me to kind of get how to mix in the stupid clicks with the actual beat. Like the beat was like, but the way I thought of it was just a typical hip-hop beat that's just like boom, 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 boom. So I would try to add in the click in the beat like that boom, 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 boom. So how do you add in the click and be like, that, you know, snoop, snoop. It was just so difficult. I don't know, how long has it been? Over 40 minutes so far of me rambling about hip-hop and beatboxing. I definitely need to do a lot more beats. I'm going to try to do this one. This is one of Killa Kella's famous routines from back in the day. This was a song that came out in the early 90s though, but it's a remix of a song that originally came out in the early 80s, and it was just a simple, I think it was like an a cappella joint from the 80s, and then it got turned into a kind of like a trip hop or a dance kind of electronic mix, or you know, like a production DJ mix by DNA. You know, they called it the DNA remix, and this song is called Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega. So it went something like this. And that part was really famous. It's really super well known. That was used in commercials back in the day, like in the early 2000s. They would use that in TV commercials and TV spots, and it became a song that everybody would like. It was very catchy, but most people didn't know what the hell the song was called. And it's Tom's Diner, the DNA remix by Suzanne Vega, and you know that really catchy. I've been sitting in the corner and I opened up the paper. I've been sitting in the corner and I opened up the paper. I've been sitting in the corner and I opened to pay, but I've been waiting to call back and I open to pay, but ta ta ba da ba da ba ta ba da ba da ba ta ba da ba da ba ta ba da ba da ta 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 da ta ta da ta ta da ta ta da ta 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 da ta ta da ta ta da ta ta da. Oh shit. And then not Eclipse, Killa Kela. Killa Kela was the one who did that routine in his beatbox routine. So Killa Kela would do that beat, and he would close off the show, you know what I mean? His show with that particular Suzanne Vega cover, and it was amazing. You know, the whole crowd would just get into it. They would like go crazy. You know what I mean? Because they knew the lyrics, everybody would sing along, and they'd be like, sing along, louder, louder. Everybody would ta 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 ta. And it was such a crowd-pleasing song, and really, really epic. You know, probably one of the best beatbox routines, one of the best covers of an actual piece of music from the early 90s. So that's a little bit of beatbox history, a little bit of b-boying history, a little bit of some routines. You know, I wish I could do a little bit more actual beatboxing, you know, some of the techniques and stuff. So, and you know, I'm just I don't like want to freestyle everything, because I mean I can do that, and it's so easy to do a beat like it's so easy to do those beats, but to actually have an actual set, an actual routine where you go from, you know, 10 minutes just doing routines, you know, that's not easy to do. You know, you gotta have an actual you know what I mean, like Eclipse and Faith and all those guys, and then Rozelle. You gotta have an ongoing thing. You gotta be like, it's gotta be organized. And obviously, I mean, I don't have anything like that. I just kind of do beats. You know, I'm just the kind of guy that would do beats in the shower. I would beatbox in the shower just for fun. It's kind of like, you know, like some people will sing in the shower. They will sing in the shower like me 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 mo mo mo, you know, or some whatever, some stupid song, any catchy song, pop music. You know what I mean? Well, I beatbox in the shower. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I do. I don't really sing. I mean, I can incorporate a little bit of the singing. I'm not a good singer by any means, but, you know, the singing part of it is just a part of the beatbox. It's the actual creating the beat that is, yeah, I like to do that in the shower. And it just becomes a natural thing. You know what I mean? Like, I could beatbox all day, every day, but just like random stuff, you know what I mean? And just certain things that I like, certain songs from the 90s and the late 80s would pop in my head. I remember Alice in Chains, for example, the Alice in Chains song, what was that? Man in the Box, Man in the Box. So the beginning would be like, you know, in a box, in my ship, and that's about as far as I go, because I can't really do the rest of the lyrics. But that's a fun one. That's a fun one, because that's a really easy beat, very catchy, but very easy to do on beat. You know, I figure like most rock songs are relatively more difficult because it requires like the guitar instruments and stuff like that. It's a lot more not orchestral, but like there's more instruments going on, a lot more complex than just a simple like hip hop beat. But I always felt like that damn Man in the Box is so simple. You know, that it's that guttural first few notes, you know what I mean? That intro, the kicks and the drum and then when he starts singing the wailing part, the really catchy, that, and then you mix that with the actual, you know, the drums and the kicks and the beat, the bass line and stuff, you know, yeah, and then the actual lyrics comes in, and I mean, it's difficult to sing anyway. I'm not a singer by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, I'm a man in a box, and then mixing that in with the, you know, the drum pattern and everything, you know, box, buried in my ship. Deny your maker, Jesus Christ. I love that. Great song, great grunge song. Freaking love it. Grunge music is relatively more complicated to do because, again, it's like a rock, you know, the rock genre is more difficult. There's a lot of like distortion and the guitars and all that stuff is just hard to duplicate via beatboxing. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I'm trying to even think, like, is there any like Nirvana and Pearl Jam songs that I could even like try to imitate on beatbox? You know what I mean? Like, even just thinking about any of it. Let's see. In Bloom is hard. In Bloom, because then you got the drums and, you know, that's like super difficult. Yeah, like All Apologies. I can't even do that one. Yeah, I mean the you know, the typical like Smells Like Teen Spirit. Ow, 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 ow. I can't even. It doesn't even sound that good, you know. I'm trying to think of the other ones. There's got to be some other ones. I know, yeah, the Killing Joke ripoff. Yeah, the 80s, you know, Killing Joke joint. The Life Goes On. That, what's that one? Come As You Are. Come As You Are by Nirvana. How does that one go? Oh yeah. Do 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 do. Come as you are. See, that one's hard too. I mean, it's not like I could beatbox that one, you know. Come as you are, as a friend, as I want you to be. Hurry up, I'm not even doing the beat. Take your time. Yeah, and I don't remember all the lyrics to that song either. Yeah. Damn, yeah. A lot of those songs, man, they're just hard to do. Pearl Jam, I can't even remember any Pearl Jam songs off the top of the head that I could beatbox. Alive. How does Alive go? I don't even like remember the instrumental. Oh, I'm still alive. I can't even do the beat because the beat is just. The beat is just weird, like do 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 do. You know, I mean, it's got some weird like guitar pattern. I don't even know. Yeah, Soundgarden. Soundgarden is a great one. Love Soundgarden. Rest in peace, Chris Cornell. By the way, Jesus, that was freaking sad. You know, finding out that Chris Cornell died. You know, finding out any of these like '90s favorite musicians that I really enjoy their music. And then you find out that they die like in the 2010s, you know, in this generation, they're dying now. It's just so freaking sad. You know, like when I first found out, Scott Weiland died. You know, I think from the Stone Temple Pilots. Is that his name, Scott Weiland? He was dope. And when he died, it was just so sad. Wayne Static from Static X is another one. You know, Static X was a great new metal band. And the fact that he's dead now, he's gone, it's just a sad thing. It's like, holy crap, like all these 90s icons. I mean, whether you hated them, whether you liked nu metal, you know, I know not everybody was a fan of nu metal, but I mean, I loved it. It was a part of my childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like Limp Bizkit and Korn and all those guys. I love that stuff. It was cool. You know, it was cool music back in the day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was really popular. So, you know, I legitimately like that stuff. I'm trying to think of some other beatbox, like 90s stuff that I could beatbox. As far as like grunge and stuff, all that stuff is just so difficult. You know, and me being more of a hip-hop guy, I mean, hip-hop is so easy to beatbox for the most part. You know, I'm not saying it's all completely, like, super easy, but it's, you know, I mean, geez, like, most hip-hop beats are a lot more simple compared to anything rock-related. You know, most rock songs are a lot more complex, and hip-hop is just the basic stuff. Probably the hardest part about, like, a 90s hip-hop beat would be the sample, you know, so whatever the melody, the little sample that they have, depending on how intricate it is or how melodic it is, it would be hard to beatbox Troy by Pete Rock and CL Smooth from the early 90s, because I mean that song has all kinds of stuff going on. That jazzy beginning, that that saxophone at the beginning, and then the beat comes in and it's really, really like super jazzy. Anything by CL Smooth, I should say Pete Rock, Pete Rock produced is kind of difficult to do. But there's more simple ones, like I don't know, I want to say Supreme MTM from like 1998. It's a little bit easier. I represent for my people. That's my people. And then the beat comes in. It's like. Yeah, that's another beat by Eclipse. Another beat that I stole from Eclipse, or influenced by Eclipse, because he does all that stuff. You know, he's a French beatboxer. Supreme MTM is a French hip-hop group from the 90s, and that's a really catchy, almost like Wu-Tang-esque kind of beat. Especially the sample that. I love that because it reminds me of like early 90s, like Wu-Tang Clan, and it's a tremendously easy beat to do, very easy, but it's catchy as hell. I mean, it really is a catchy beat. It's got a bit of a, I don't know, you call it like classical piano sample. Yeah, it's got a piano sample. Some of the piano samples can be difficult, but some of them can be manageable and, you know, kind of easy to duplicate, because it's usually just a simple piano ditty, you know, a little piano sample. Like I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, Milkbone, Keep It Real. That one is probably a little bit more difficult, because I mean that is like dun 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 dun, and then on top of a beat. I mean, I don't know how anybody could duplicate that joint from 1995. Keep It Real by Milkbone. I can't even. I'm trying to imitate it, you know. I'm gonna have to study that one, you know. Oh, that beat, by the way, that reminds me of another beat I used to do back in high school in the early 2000s. It's called Try by 12. Which is a popular battle beat. It became a really popular battle beat. It's by East Flatbush Project. It's called Tried by 12, and it's like a famous underground hip-hop instrumental that became a famous like freestyle kind of beat, you know, where famous rappers have battled to it, have freestyled to it. Guys like I think Biggie probably did a freestyle to it. Supernatural and Juice, when they had a battle. Scribble Jam used to use Tribe by 12 all the time. And it's a very simple beat, you know what I mean? Like that. Wait, how does it go again? Dun, 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 dun. That's the one. Dun, 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 dun. I love that little like tinkling, because I mean that has like an oriental kind of a Chinese beat to it, that ding 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 ding. Yeah, Eminem freestyled to that beat back in the day. I think he did like a cypher from like 6 years ago, and he freestyled to that one 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah, the 90s had probably the best like rap instrumentals as far as like freestyling and, you know, rap spitting flows. Okay, that's about it for now. I think it's been an hour of me just rambling about beatboxing and stuff. So that's it for this episode of the Review Space. Maybe I'll do another Beatbox Sessions video. And yeah, until next time, peace.